Okay, it looks like we're live. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel and to another video in Nicki's language learning. Now, those of you who have been with me for some of the previous videos will know that I'm a keen language learner, and after a few introductory videos, what I'm doing now is in each month's video I'm going through the different languages that I've studied to various extents and talking about how I got into learning them, how I've been learning them, and how I'm continuing to try to keep learning them. I say try because it's always a struggle to fit everything in. But today, as you can see from our title below here, we're doing Danish. So Danish is the, let's see, German, French, Italian, Czech, fifth foreign language I started learning. So let's move swiftly on. Let me change the banner over. There we go. So how I started learning Danish. Danish came about because of a TV series, to be honest. And that TV series, I'm trying to think what year it was on. It was the early 2010s, I think, maybe 2011, 2012, when the TV series of Hannibal came out. And in the lead role of Hannibal Lecter was the Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen. And I got really into his performance of Hannibal, and when I get into an actor, I generally go back and view all their backlist of movies and TV series and things. So this got me watching a ton of Danish films and TV series starring Mads Mikkelsen. And hearing Danish a lot, it was actually fairly easy for me in some ways because I'd already studied German for a number of years. So I could understand some stuff already. There were bits and pieces that I could pick out for the simpler stuff that I knew what they were saying. So I thought, well, it surely wouldn't be that hard to learn Danish if I've already learned German. So I decided to teach myself some. And as always, I went to the trusty old Teach Yourself series of books first. I know this looks like brand new and not used, but I have actually been through this book from cover to cover. I'm just very careful with books, and I can read whole books and not break the spine. You just hold them like this, don't bend them too far. And so that's why the book looks perfect still. But again, as with the other books in this series, I think they're a decent place to start. It's hard, the way they're set out, to go back and find things sometimes. Like if you just need to check conjugations of past tense or something, sometimes it's not straightforward to find where it was in the book. But that problem aside, it isn't a bad place to start. It does some little conversations, teaches you a bit of grammar, and you can build on things from there. And they usually come with the CD, or it used to be a cassette in the old days. I've still got some cassettes from some of the older ones I have. This one, though, was new enough to be, was it? No, it wasn't. I think this was a cassette. Does it tell me on here? I think it was, to be honest. I think this one was still a cassette. Because I think I picked up an older edition. But no, I lie. The Czech one was a cassette. This one was a CD, though. We'd gone up in the world from cassettes to CDs by the time I got this one. So yeah, they're not a bad place to start if you're just wanting to dive in, have a go at the language yourself. From there, I bought, as I always do, things like grammar books and dictionaries. I bought the Routledge dictionary first, and it was okay, but I felt that there were times I was going to look for stuff and those words were not in there. So I ended up buying a second dictionary, but to be honest, after I bought it, there's pretty much not a lot between them. So I still tend to use the Routledge one more because it's higher up in the pile on the shelf, so I tend to grab it first. And it probably wasn't worth getting the other one. I also bought another book in this Routledge grammar series, which you've seen me mention in these videos before. So this is Danish, an Essential Grammar. After I bought this one, I actually thought maybe I shouldn't have bought the Essential Grammar. Maybe I should have bought the Comprehensive Grammar, the full one, which is, if I show you the width of this one, it's about 3 times the width of this one. So I did spend something like $90 and bought that too. But again, to be honest, if I need to look something up for grammar, the one I grab off the shelf is this one. Because generally at the level I'm at, a sort of high beginner level, pushing towards low intermediate, the stuff I'm wanting to check and wanting to know is all in this one. That doesn't mean I won't look at the comprehensive one in the future. I've kind of skimmed through it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I mean, all these books are generally, everything's well explained, well laid out, easy to find. It's just that most of the stuff I need is just in the small one. So again, maybe I could have saved myself $90, but perhaps in the future I will want to move on to that thicker one a bit more. So that was how I got started with Danish. So let me change the banner over here. So continuing studies. I had a bit of a gap. So I was teaching myself. And at that time I had a pen pal in Denmark. So I was able to practice a little bit reading and writing letters. And we also did a trip over to Scandinavia, my husband and I, in 2015. And we did Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland over the space of 2 or 3 weeks, I think close to 3 weeks. And I did get to practice it a bit then, which was great. But it's now 2022. The pen pal I had in Denmark started a family, didn't have time to write anymore. So that's been the case of quite a few of my pen friends in recent years. So since that visit to Denmark, I really haven't used Danish much at all. While I was on that trip, I was in Foyles in London. And you may go, why was I in London on a trip to Scandinavia? But because I'm originally from England, we always, if we go to Europe anywhere, we visit my parents as well. So we were in London, in Foyles, and I found in the discount rack this book, as it happens, which I can't get into shot. There we go. But it's, as you might guess from the name there, Lord of the Rings. And this one is actually Comprehension, Return of the King. It's the 3rd volume. So I haven't got the first 2. But I did think this would be a good way to keep practicing, because I could at least do some reading. And if I just open it up at a page, there we go. So you can see I've got a few little notes, if it lets me focus in a bit, a few little notes along the side where I've looked up words. But for the most part, I think because I know the story, because it looks fairly like German, I can actually read this book without too much trouble. And I did start it. I got through, 108. I'm on page 188. 188 out of something like 600, I think. Yeah. So I'm close to a third of the way through it. But I was reading some, like trying to do a few pages a week or so at one point. But time's just run away from me a bit lately. I haven't had the time to do that. So I do want to get into it again and start picking up this a bit more again, reading a few more chapters. But that's one way that I practice still, or I will be practicing again still in the future. One thing I've been doing with all my languages in the last year or so was, let me just get rid of this, it's getting annoying, there we go, was I looked up websites, spent a few hours on each language just searching online, looking for resources and various things that I could use to work on my studies. Danish is one of the harder ones, not the absolute hardest. We'll come to that in a couple of months' time, but it's fairly hard. There's not a huge amount out there compared to other languages. So there is a YouTuber called Mick, and his YouTube channel is called Mick's Languages. And he does some really great content. It's not super regular. He puts out videos now and then, but when he does, they're really good. And he looks at everything from pronunciation to grammar, vocabulary, and things like that. So if you're learning Danish, his channel is definitely worth a look at. And he's got some sort of historical archive material, even though he's not super regular at publishing new stuff. The other thing I'm doing at the moment is listening. I try to listen to an episode each week of the Danishtube podcast. And you can find their website if you just search Danishtube. And these are quite interesting because they're podcast episodes. They're usually interviewing someone who's learning Danish. So you get a mix of Danish and English. Usually they'll talk, the hosts and the interviewee will talk in Danish. And they might get a few corrections from the host along the way. And once they finish speaking in Danish, the host will then summarize what's been said in English. So that way you can test your comprehension as well. You can listen to it first, get as much as you can. And then when they do that little summary, then you can see, oh, yes, I did follow all that content correctly. and they'll pull up a few vocabulary words that they'll mention along the way as well. So I'm watching that one, or listening to that one at the moment. However, otherwise, it's not hugely easy to find learning materials. Of course, you can find Danish news, whether text or video, online fairly easily. There's usually some Danish movies around on SBS On Demand, but other than that, it's not easy to find those kind of really good materials, like breaking down different grammar points and things online. Not that I've been able to find so far anyway. And if anyone's got any recommendations, pop them in the comments and I'll take a look. That I kind of have to do by books. And I'm trying to, again, as with all the languages, write once every couple of months, write a quick little paragraph or so on Journaly in order to practice a bit. Finding a new pen pal in Denmark would be a huge boon for me if I could manage that. I've tried writing to a couple of people on Slowly, but never got replies from the Danish ones. So, and there's not that many of them to begin with on there. So it's hard. It's a harder one to study. And as such, I feel that I've kind of hit that upper beginner level, and it's now difficult for me to progress any further because I don't have easy resources with which to do it. My comprehension is reasonably good, as I said, because it's so similar to German. For reading and listening, I can actually understand a fair bit. So even when I'm watching films in Danish, I have the subtitles on, but I could probably manage 75% of it without them. But to practice producing is the hardest thing for me at the moment. I need to try and get more writing practice and particularly speaking practice in, because I know my accent's not brilliant. But that's something that I have to try to keep working on, and I'm going to continue to keep working on it as much as I can. Obviously, it is difficult. I work. I don't just sit at home all day. I have 2 part-time jobs, and I'm studying 8 languages now. And so there is a limit to how much time I can put into each of them. And it comes down to a choice, I think. And I ummed and ahed early on when I was thinking about working on my languages more seriously again. Did I just want to concentrate on half of them and let the other half go, and potentially improve more in that half that I was looking at? Or do I just want to keep all of them up a little bit? And I made the decision to keep all of them up a little bit rather than trying to work harder at some and letting others drop completely. So that's still my aim. I don't expect to make huge bounds. And maybe I never will. But I'm not doing this for any particular purpose. I'm not doing it for work. I'm not moving to any of these countries. It's just for my own fun and my own interest that I like learning languages. So I don't have a goal in mind that I have to become like C2 level in all of them by next year or anything like that. I can take things as slowly as I need to. I can just do a little bit here and there. If I feel I'm improving a bit as I go, then to be honest, I'm happy with that. That's fine for me. I don't need them for anything other than my own personal enjoyment. So I think I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself, which has been hard because I'm the sort of person that if I've got something to do, I like to do it. I'm a why put off till tomorrow what I could do yesterday kind of person. So there's always part of me that now I'm doing this this extra language study, and I'm trying to fit in a bit of each language every week, that I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself at times that I have to find the time for that. And I think I need to be willing to step back a bit and say, well, this week I didn't have time for Danish or Icelandic, but that's fine. I'll do some next week again. And I'm still struggling with that a little bit, but especially when I get busy with work and I'm stressing myself out trying to fit everything in. But I'm trying to remind myself all the time that this is just a hobby for me. It's for fun, and I don't have to take it too seriously. If I don't want to, or if I need a week off, I should take a week off. So that's where I'm up to. Now, next week, if we were following my sort of initial setup that I was talking about each language I started learning in order that I learnt them, we should be going to Icelandic. However, I'm actually going to leave Icelandic until the end. And the reason for that is because of all the languages I'm studying, it's the hardest, both in terms of the language itself and in terms of finding ways to study it and to improve in it. So I've decided to put that one last in the list of 8, because it will then tie into the following week of languages that I've dabbled in, or the following month, I should say, sorry. And in some ways, I'd only consider Icelandic a dabble, although it's a slightly more serious dabble than others, because of the difficulty in finding the resources for it. So we're just going to bump Icelandic to the end. And when we talk in May, I will instead move on to the first of the 2 more recent languages that I've started, which is Japanese. So I hope you will join me all again next time to talk about my journey so far with Japanese. And I will end there for today. Bye for now, everyone.